Good evening and warm welcome. This is 115th Leadership Conversation with Ms. Asha Batra. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Asha ji. Welcome, Asha ji. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us. It is our good pleasure. It is a good pleasure that we have chanced upon meeting you, knowing you, and today we are going to talk about Indian cinema. For quite some time, we've been worrying about this. How do we get a speaker for Indian cinema or cinema as a subject? So today we have got that and fulfilled. Thank you so much. Without wasting further time, I will do the introduction and hand it over back to you. Let me share my screen. Before that, I want to welcome all the leaders who have joined around the screen. Some of them from film industry, Bindu Chandramouli, leaders from education, people from finance, and all walks of life. All of you are welcome, and I'll share my screen. These are WiseViews leadership conversations. So we have been hosting these on Fridays, typically Friday evenings at 6:30 p.m. And today is the 115th session. And we have Ms. Asha Batra with us. We're going to talk about contribution beyond the caste. This intro and then the opening talk by Asha ji, followed by Q&A, all will be probably consumed within 1 hour. But my experience is that we spill over by about 10-15 minutes. And happily so, if the guest speaker permits us to answer or permits us to raise a few more questions as well towards the end. Asha ji is the founder trustee of Indian Cinema Heritage Foundation, which is a non-for-profit charitable trust set up to chronicle the rich history of Indian cinema and create a digital archive of Indian cinema memorabilia. The foundation houses the largest private collection of Indian cinema memorabilia and literature, comprising of film booklets, lobby cards, show cards, film posters, hoardings and pamphlets, cinema magazines, newspapers and books, film projectors, editing machines, music, and much more. That's a huge list. Asha ji heads the Cinemaazi Center, which is a research center, a documentation project of Indian Cinema Heritage Foundation. Cinemaazi is creating a research-based, freely accessible digital encyclopedic resource of Indian films and its people. The focus is on documenting the contribution of lesser-known people to Indian cinema. Till date, Cinemaazi has documented over 8,000 films, including Hindi, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, Konkani, and other language movies, and profile of more than 900 persons associated with cinema, both in front and behind the camera. We can visit their website to learn a little more about Cinemaazi Research Center. She is the production head of Cinemaazi's YouTube channel, which recounts the journey of Indian cinema through video essays, restoration of old movies, interviews, and reviews. Over 120 episodes under various playlists are written and produced by her. The content of Cinemaazi TV are available on the YouTube channel. Asha ji leads the oral memory project of the foundation and interviews surviving family members of people from film fraternity, persons, fans, people associated in any other person who worked on the periphery of the Indian cinema by recording, but made immense contributions to create a repository of information based on oral memories. She is well versed with social media algorithms and has created a huge database on people, films, stills, and publicity materials, and is actively involved in creating the content and visibility in the social media of Cinemaazi. She is currently working on a project to create a comprehensive documentation of films made on Indian mythology from inception till date. This is a pretty huge project again. To maintain credibility of the work done in Foundation and the Research Center, she does first-hand research by watching the films herself in all languages, by reading archival material from Foundation's library and talking to film scholars and film historians. This is a very, very laborious, time-consuming process. She's the director, additionally, she's the director of Kumaon Literary Festival, a traveling literature festival. The 2002 edition of Kumaon Literary Festival was held in Srinagar, Kashmir in the month of September 2022, which was inaugurated by Shri Manoj Sinha, Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. She is also a qualified lawyer and is presently partner in the law firm of Kesadas B and Associates. Before becoming a partner in the law firm, she has worked with senior lawyers like Shri Ranjit Kumar, former Solicitor General of India, and Shri Parag Tripathi, Senior Advocate and a formal Additional Solicitor General of India, and Mr. Sumant Batra, who is a renowned insolvency lawyer whom I met recently in Hyderabad. She's also the managing director of T. Aroha, a boutique museum hotel developed by her family. The hotel is located in a village called Dhanachuli in the state of Uttarakhand. This hotel has been developed to serve as a hub of art and culture. Also Chitrashala, a museum of Indian popular culture, art from the 19th and 20th century. I think there is an amazing work that Asha ji is doing. We are extremely happy to have identified you as a speaker, ma'am.
Thank you.
There are several other details. She belongs to a middle-class family from Uttaranchal. Her father was in the paramilitary force called Assam Rifles and extensively traveled to northeastern states of India. She was born and brought up in the state of Manipur. After completing her schooling, she graduated in BSc from Delhi University, and she completed her law from Manipur University. She can fluently speak in Hindi, English, Nepali, and understands Garhwali and Manipuri. Once again, welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll take one more moment to introduce my esteemed colleague, professor and course mentor, Professor R. Prasad. He heads the academic wing at ICFAI Group. He brings with himself 3 decades of rich experience as an entrepreneur, as a corporate professional, and as an academic now. He holds a BTech from IIT Bombay and PGDM from IIM Kolkata. He published several papers, edited books, and also presented articles in various conferences, India and abroad. Thank you so much, Professor Prasad. I will stop sharing the screen here and we'll leave the floor open to Asha ji. Asha ji, thank you so much. We are all ears and would like to learn about Indian cinema from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I would never thought that you're going to read out the whole biodata which I have presented, but thank you for reading out everything. And let's start with the main subject. Now, let me share my screen with you. And so this is, as Mr. Rao said, I'm archiving in the brand name of Cinemaazi. Cine means cinema, as we all know, and Maazi is an Urdu word which is means the past. And we have at this point consciously taken a time period till 70s. A little bit, we are extending it till 80s because it's a huge film material and films which are made over so many years. So this is what the archival work we have. We have been collecting digital art, we have been digitalizing books, magazines, publicity materials, and it has very it has been told by Mr. Rao that what we have been doing. We also provide space for researchers and scholars and film enthusiasts. But now we must know that India makes the largest number of film in the world. And we have the highest viewership. Our cinemas is watched in Middle East, Africa, South Africa, Pakistan, US, and Asia, and in India. And it's such a diverse film industry that we make films in 41 languages, the highest being in Hindi, then Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, and Malayalam. So in a way, we are also the global leader in terms of the linguistic diversity. So let me just show you a small video which we have made just to give you a concise everything what we have been doing so that you can get an idea of what the level of work it involves. So this might give you a small intro to the Cinemaazi. I hope you'll like it. So let me just show it to you. So this is something which, this is a journey of 120 years in 41 languages. So you can imagine how big the whole grandeur of Indian cinema is. And out of the whole, the full cinemas which has been made over 120 years, we are trying to make it into, and we are digitalizing it in cinemaazi.com, which is a digital archive where we, as Mr. Rao said, that we have already archived 11,400 films, out of which most of these films are films which are mainly from the booklets which are published during that time. These are films which are not available in the YouTube because either the films are lost or very little, mostly the songs would be available, but the cinema and the cast and the crews who were involved with these films are not available right now in the public domain. It might be available in the archive, but it's not accessible for a general public or researchers. So we were making these films which has been archived. We are archiving these films, and this is done in the website which we have. Then we also have people who have worked in front of the camera and behind the camera. And these are the people who have, like around 10,000 people have been, profiles have been written. We also have the memory project and the Cinemaazi feature. The Cinemaazi feature is the archival features which were published in various magazines and the newspapers, which gives you a lot of detail about the cinema, the people who were working at that point of time. And in today's time, when we want to, a scholar or even a film enthusiast wants to know about these films, a film which has been made in 1979 or in the 1940s, I don't think that these are the films which is very easily accessible right now. So these archives and these archival features help them to understand. This also has lots of film reviews. These film reviews actually help people to understand the story about the movie. And so this is one part of it. Then we also have YouTube channel. I'll be showing you few YouTube programs which we have recorded, so you'll understand the type of work we've been doing. Now, when we talk about film, it's not only the cast who actually make a film. It is a teamwork. It is the serendipity which has been created by the team. Though it is normally said that it is the director's medium, but it's also a very interesting combination of art, technology, and money. So basically, the producers are very important, the artists are important, and all these people who jointly, they form the cinema. But very sadly, we normally only remember those who are in front of camera, and even in the front of camera, we normally remember those who are stars. So our endeavor and our focus is mainly on people who have not been recorded, who the focus has not been there, and it is for those people who wants to do research. So let's start with the start of the cinema. Now, if we see, a very interesting aspect of Indian cinema is that the cinema in India came in 7th of July in 1886 on a rainy day. And interestingly, when the cinema came to India, this was a Lima Brothers assistant who came to India, and he was on a transit. So he was supposed to go to Australia, and in India, he just stopped for 2 days. And he brought a lot of films with him. And in the hotel, Boston Hotel, he wanted to show these cinemas, and it was hugely priced for that time. It was for one show was for ₹1. And we need to understand that this is also the time when there was a great famine happening in Bombay, the Bombay presidency. So even during that famine time, people were so much interested in watching cinema that Lima Brothers had to stay back for 1 month. And it was in August, they again went to Australia, and then for the 1 month, they started showing the films. And that was the enthusiasm shown by Indian people. And that's how the whole story of making Indian cinema started. So a lot of people started experimenting with this medium. And then we all know that Mr. Phalke is the our father of Indian cinema, and he had made films, Harishchandra in 1913. But if we go beyond the cast and we think the Baburao Painter was one person whom I'm focusing today, because Baburao Painter is not talked much about him. People, they normally think that Baburao Painter, it was Mr. Phalke who started the Indian cinema, and he made lot of cinema. Yes, he did started the cinema, but if we talk about Baburao Painter, then we understand the amount of work and the legacy which he has given to Indian cinema. Now, let's say Baburao Painter was a great teacher. Baburao Painter, he was a mistri, and he wanted to make cinema. And this was the time when the First World War had already started. And he was not able to get the raw stock from foreign countries, and especially from London. So he joined as an exhibitor, and he realized that the projectors are actually a medium which is showcasing the film. And he started his journey of making a camera from the projector. So he went to a flea market, he purchased a projector, and from the projector, he started making a camera for himself. So his brother and he, both of them actually started this whole making of a camera, and then he made this camera. And in the process, Mr. Anand Rao, his brother, died. And then finally, Baburao Painter succeeded in making his first camera, and he got some roles. In fact, he went to Dadasaheb Phalke and he wanted to learn from him. But at that point of time, maybe because of the trade secret, he didn't teach him. So he taught himself how the cinema was to be made. And few things are very important in his lifetime, what contribution he has given to Indian cinema. Now, first thing which we must talk about is he trained many technicians. He trained so many technicians that in today's time, it's been recorded that 100 to 100 and in fact, 250 to 300 technicians were trained in his Maharashtra film studio. During his training, when he was training, in fact, the whole Prabhat studio, which was V. Shantaram studio, started because Baburao Painter didn't want to make a sound film, because he thought that sound will corrupt people's mind. So he didn't want to make sound films. So he said, then Mr. V. Shantaram, he went to Kolhapur and he started his own cinema, which is now, we know that it's the Prabhat cinema, which is there. So there were like Bala Saheb, V. Shantaram, Damle, S. Fathelal, Debrier, Baburao Pandherkar, then actors like Master Vittal, Junjurao Pawar. These were the people ultimately they became the leaders in cinema. Now, that is one aspect of his the training, the technicians and the people who worked in cinema. Now, if we talk about the art direction, because he was a painter, he was a sculpturist, and because of his painters and being such a good painter himself, he actually started making 3D designs of sets. And when he made 3D designs of sets, and he played with tinted glasses, and in the tinted glasses, he made sets which were in the grades of shades of gray. So to give the effect of the colors. So if you see shades of gray in black and white, it will translate into it will give a false effect of a coloring of the cinema. So that was something which he introduced. And his films were so realistic. Even in the editing, he gave fade in and fade out effects. So which were very interesting for the cinema goers to see. And it was well advanced of his time. If we see his films, the first film which he made was Shairadri. And in the Shairadri, he had actually done a Kichak Bad. So Kitchak was, there was, and the whole, the theater, they used to scream because the amount of reality he brought to the cinema was so big that people used to scream. And then if we talk about this was also the time when the national movement was going on in India. So he started a lot of historicals. And in the historical cinema, there was one cinema, a film which I must mention is Sinhagad, which was actually about the Marathas, the glamour, the grandeur of Marathas, which they had. And in the cinema, it was such a big hit that the Britishers had to bring entertainment tax on this because of it. So these are the people which we normally want to talk about when we talk about people who beyond because people normally go for Dadasaheb Phalke, but hardly we know about Babu Rao Painter. So that's one aspect. Now, if we go back to the cinema of talkies, now everybody knows that Alamara is the first talkie film which was made by Ardasar Irani, and then the second film during the same time was Sherin Farhad. This was made by in Madan Theatre, and they had a very interesting story of they used to compete because Ardasar Irani knew that in Sherin Farhad there is many songs. So since there were many songs, so ultimately he reduced his songs so that he can bring his film, he can win the race. So that's how he reduced his film. So today we'll be talking about Sherin Farhad because Alamara, everybody knows. So Sherin Farhad was actually a very, technically a very advanced film, and it had more than 40 songs. And these songs were sung by Master Nisar. Now, Master Nisar was earlier working, he was a theatre artist. He used to work in Madan Theatre, and he had a very good diction of Urdu. And he came from a theatre background. So because of the theatre background, he had a very, and one more very interesting thing is that he had remarkable memory. So he would just memorize everything, and which was very good for cinema because they had to actually memorize a lot of dialogues, and retakes would happen. They don't have to take many retakes. So Master Nisar, but sadly, Master Nisar later, when he came to Bombay, because the Calcutta industry was shutting down, and he came back to Bombay. When he came to Bombay, he was very spendthrift, and he was earning a lot of money. He's also credited for making Indra Sabha, which is still the highest number of songs which has been recorded in Indian cinema. So that they have the highest number of songs. He also is the part of Kisan Kannaiya, which is actually the first Cineton color movie. So in this manner, he was a very accomplished star. But very sadly, he became pauper. He actually he couldn't save his money, and in 1980 he died in Kamantipura, which is one of the red light areas of Bombay. So this is how these stories of cinema we want to record in Cinemaazi. We do all these things. Now, let's say, as I told, that production is a very important part of Indian cinema, and we normally talk about directors, but production is something which is an important aspect of cinema. I just wanted to show you a small video clip, which I think you will understand how important the cinema production is for a cinema. So just a minute, let me just start this.
तो आप सोचते हैं इस कहानी से एक फिल्म नहीं बन सकती?
नहीं, हमने फिल्म कंपनी खोली है पैसा कमाने के लिए। कोई ऐसी कहानी लिखो जिसमें आशिक माशूकी, साजन सजनी, हाँ, बॉक्स ऑफिस।
लेकिन कुछ देश का भी तो ख्याल कीजिए, इन बच्चों का ध्यान कीजिए। ये बच्चे ही देश और इंसानियत के भविष्य हैं, इनको आप बर्बाद न करिए। कम से कम मेरी कहानी को पूरा तो सुन लीजिए।
So the production had a very important, say in the film, because ultimately these were the people who were putting up their money, and it was also a part of business. It was also seen as a business, and so these lot of like people who had extra money, they used to invest in cinema, and so production was very important, and lots of studios came at that point of time, which later on disintegrated. Now, the other part which I wanted to bring to your attention is the poster artists, because they were the one who were never credited in cinema. Now, poster artist, if you remember the poster of Amitabh Bachchan films, which were like big knife, with a knife they used to make, the banners through which people got attracted to cinema. And these people were great artists. They used to make films which people who would get attracted to the cinema. Now, we recorded this interview of Madhukar as well as Prithvi Soni. And Prithvi Soni, in fact, he was the person who gave, if you remember, Sanjay Dutt's movie Khalnayak. So in Khalnayak, the whole get-up of Sanjay Dutt was given by him. But we hardly know, we know Sanjay Dutt, Khalnayak, and he told us that the Khalnayak, the get-up of Khalnayak was inspired by Mother India's Birju. So he modernized it to that time period, and that's how he gave it. Now, let me take you to a few things which, now this Madhukar, Mr. Madhukar, he actually had he was selected for Mughal-e-Azam banners. So Mughal-e-Azam, when Mughal-e-Azam was made, they had a detailed profiling of people who can get involved with Mughal-e-Azam cinema. So Mughal-e-Azam was the pinnacle of finesse, and they used to have lots of tests and retests for the designers and the artists who can get associated with Mughal-e-Azam. So Madhukar is another person who actually was associated with Mughal-e-Azam films. Subhas Ghai, most of the films, Subhas Ghai's films were all the posters, lobby cards, show cards were all painted by Prithvi Soni. So let's go to the next slide, which is like, if you go to the music part. We know that in music, everybody knows the music director. We know the musicians, the people who are associated with the lyricists, the singers. But there is one part of the music which is very left out, is the arrangers. Now, in arrangers, I wanted to talk about one gentleman, which is Sebastian de Souza. Sebastian de Souza was he was a Goan who had come to music industry, and he had given the counter melody. Now, counter melody was a very interesting aspect which was brought to Indian music. If we see normally the Indian cinema, we started with classical music, but the classical music, there is the counter melodies which will have a small beat under the main song. So if we see the chorus of Ajib Dasta's song has a chorus in it. And if you see the chorus, and with the chorus, there is a chorus, it has a violin undertone in it, and which actually brings the whole song, makes the song very interesting. And these were the small things which were done by the arrangers. And Sebastian is one person who we shouldn't never forget about him. And he should be brought to the limelight much more than what we know. I don't think they were ever credited in the whole casting system which we had. Then he started his career with Vasant Desai. And if you remember the song, E Malik Tere Bande Hum, this song was actually, the music was arranged by him. And then he joined O.P. Nair, and then the song like Mera Naam Chim Chin Chu. The O.P. Nair songs are actually being like, normally we remember it for having those small, very nice beats which they had. So all these songs were arranged by Mr. Sebastian. And then another person which is very important is Manohari. And he was the part of R.D. Burman's troupe, and the R.D. Burman, the music team. And he was a very good saxophone plays, and then he used to play saxophone. And if we remember that Zehrila Insan, and there is a song called O Hasina, O Hansini, that song has a piece of a saxophone which was actually played by him. So I know music is one genre which will take the whole session in it, but I'm trying to, just concise it as much I can. But one person I wanted to show is about, I wanted to show a short video about is Vidhu Appaya. And let me just take it to that video, and let me just play it for you.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were already here. Now, in case you're thinking, what is with this kung fu mood that you find me in? Well, I'm not in a fighting mood today. I'm in fact in a very disco-oriented mood. Now, if you're thinking what is the connection between these two things, the connection is very simple. Kung fu fighting, Dance Little Lady Dance, and a lot of hits of Tina Charles in the 1970s, or essentially the sound of disco, was redefined by Vidhu Appaya. Now, many of us know Vidhu because of his work in Feroz Khan's Kurbani. Now, this is a film for which Vidhu composed a great iconic song, Aap Jaisa Koi Meri Zindagi Mein Aaye. Which also introduced the voice of Nazia Hassan to the world. Now, Vidhu is an Indian who shifted to the UK in the 1960s and went on to become one of the most influential music producers as far as disco, Eurodisco went. And not only these two genres, but Vidhu also redefined the disco sound in India, Japan, Thailand, Philippines, and a host of other countries. He was one of the biggest names by the end of the 1970s when it came to the disco sound. And by 1980, with Feroz Khan's Kurbani, he redefined the disco sound for Hindi films. Later, he also redefined the sound of indie pop or even Pakistani pop, thanks to his albums that he produced for Nazia and Zoeb Hassan. And later, Alisha Chenai's Made in India. Yes, that was also produced by Vidhu.
So now if we go to the cinematographers, the cinematography is a very important aspect of Indian cinema, any cinema in fact, because cinema is something without the camera, I don't think it's going to work. But then there's one gentleman who I think we should always see what his work is, and that was Subrata Mitra. And we had an interview wherein Mr. Rakeshi, he actually explained us what was his contribution and how the international community know him as a cinematographer. So let me just play a short part of it. I know it might become a little longish.
So now that you mentioned Subrata Mitra, and this is something that is very close to my heart also, this is a legend who begins his career. His first film is Satyajit Ray's first film.
And the still photography begins first.
With Jean Renoir's River. And then his first film, he had never seen a Michel camera before that. And your first film is his last film.
Yes.
There's an extraordinary sort of resonance to that. And you have spoken to me earlier about your association with people. Talk about him as a very difficult man to handle and a very temperamental man. So I would like something from you about working with this great...
I'll tell you one thing. If there was any man I learned cinema from, and I'm using the word cinema in the purest sense, it was with Subrata.
Okay.
He was a cinematic cameraman. He was a cameraman who was basically absolutely cinematic. He was a technician par excellence. He could take out a Ariflex camera and put it back together.
Oh, really?
You know, I mean, that was the kind of thing to it, because he wanted to know how it worked and how could it be improved. We had no money, you know, and he used the primitive little wooden boxes with tissue papers to create certain kind of bounce lighting. He used certain, you know, with the set designer, those Japanese lantern balls to create a certain, what softness on the face of Sashi and Sharmila. This was the man who, and he talked about, he was incredible about what we call creating a certain suspense and revelation through the use of zoom and movements. There's no greater cameraman than that, and his use of what I call the simulation of lighting. He was perfect. Now, because of his perfection and his obsession with perfection, he was seen to be a difficult man, because 99% of the time in commercial cinema, people don't have time to do it. The actor, he's got about 5 other films he has.
So now that you mentioned Subrata Mitra, and this is something that is very close.
Okay, so then you can watch the whole interview, which is there in the Cinemaazi YouTube channel. So that is one thing which everyone can visit and then watch it. He's one person I think we all should know about. His work and the way he has worked in cinema is amazing. The other aspect is the art direction, and art direction is a very important aspect of cinema, because the art direction actually brings the whole it brings the narration into the whole narration comes to life. That's how the art direction is that's how the art direction and the art directors who direct these cinema are important. But art direction is one thing which is very is not talked about much, and not even the art directors. In fact, recently Mr. Desai also died. He was an art director. So now today I wanted to talk about Suhendu Roy. He was one of the greatest art director who had done for Madhumati, for Himmat Wala. You can see one Himmat Wala set. It's such a big set, and it's a huge set which was made. Then he made Yahudi sets, the sets of Cars, the set of Silsila, the many movies which he has made. So I just wanted to rush through, because I think we might we would like to take some questions as well. The other one about the writers. If we talk about the writers in Hindi cinema, there is one organization which I would want to emphasize, and those were the progressive writers who were very progressive in their nature. They used to write. They were very good in their the writers. They had very good command over the language. Let me just show you one small clip of it.
भारतीय फिल्मों की दुनिया में तरक्की पसंद लेखकों का बहुत बड़ा योगदान है। लखनऊ की सरजमी से शुरुआत करने वाली इस मुहिम ने एक नए अदब की तरफ हमारा रुख किया। इस सफ़र का आगाज़ 9 अप्रैल 1936 में प्रेमचंद की सदारत में हुआ। आम आदमी की ज़िंदगी के छोटे बड़े मसलों को छूने वाले वो पहले लेखक थे। उन्होंने लेखकों को कहा था, हमें हुस्न का मयार बदलना होगा। बस फिर क्या, जानिसार अख्तर, साहिर लुधियानवी, मजरू सुल्तानपुरी, राजेंद्र सिंह बेदी, कृष्णचंद्र, इस्मत चुगताई जैसे कई लेखक इस कार्य में जुट गए और अपनी कहानियों में हकीकत का रंग भर दिया। बंबई का स्वरूप बदल ये लखनऊ।
So you can again watch the whole video which is there in the YouTube channel. Now let's talk about dancers. Now everybody knows that Helen was a great dancer in Hindi cinema, but very little is known about Madhumati. Now Madhumati was Parsi girl who was basically she was a dancer, and she was very like, if you see both, I think they are actually very similar in their, even in the facial structure. So she was one person who has done great work, And again, we had also interviewed her, and you can watch that as well. And you can see her dances, which were there in the cinema, in lots of movies. So she is not much talked about, and that is one person which I would think that needs to be focused. And if we come to the character artists, now if we talk about the character artists, everybody knows that in the negative role, Pran was amazing. Everybody remembers him as the greatest villain. And at a long period, people didn't keep their child's name Pran. So that was the amount of impact he had in Indian audiences. But there is very we don't talk much about Hiralal Thakur. So Hiralal Thakur was actually, we feel that his body of work is more versatile. And he had actually, and he has done out and out negative roles throughout his life. And that's another person which we should be talking much. So Hiralal Thakur, if let me just show, if I can show you him in the cast.
The gallery of the most memorable villains in the history of Indian cinema will be incomplete without one of the most prolific artists, Hiralal Thakur. Hiralal mostly appeared on screen in various shades of evil, often playing a wicked wazir.
अपने बच्चे के ज़ाती मामलात में इतना दखल न दें कि वो उसे बर्दाश्त न कर सके। युवराज, अब दूध पीता बच्चा नहीं है, भगवान की दया से जवान हो रहा है।
A lascivious man with designs on the heroine.
ये हो सको या ना हो सको, मैं तुम्हें किसी और के भी नहीं होने दूंगा। तुम अब यहाँ से इस भगवान की होकर निकलोगी या उस भगवान की?
The chief of a gang of criminals.
जाने दो, भाग कर जाएगा।
Or a religious bigot.
भगवान की माया को कायम रखने के लिए हम कुछ भी कर सकते हैं। यहाँ से चले जाओ, निकल जाओ यहाँ से।
So these are the people and personalities, the aspects of Hindi cinema or Indian cinema, which we want that we should be focusing more, and that's what the Cinemaazi is also doing. But I will say that the better knowns are very important to be talked so that we can talk about lesser knowns. Now, if you see Chand Burki, Arun Ahuja, and Ratna Sethi, I don't think many of us will associate them with anybody who is better known. But if I say Ranveer Singh, Govinda, and Rohit Sethi, then I think many of us will able to figure out that who they are. So Chand Burki was Ranveer Singh's grandmother. Arun Ahuja was Govinda's father, and Ratna Sethi is Rohit Shetty's mother. So Ratna Sethi was a junior artist. Arun Ahuja was an actor who worked in 40s. His wife Nirmala was also a singer and an actress. Both of them worked together. Chand Burki worked in Punjabi cinema, and she also worked in Boot Polish, actually, a very prominent role in Boot Polish also. She was there, and many other films. In one of them, she danced as well. So better known people are very important for us, because if we want to talk about lesser known people, then we need to start from the better known people, and then that's how we should shift to the lesser known people. So that's how I wanted to tell everybody. And archiving is very important, because finally we come to the last slide. So this is the importance of archive, because we all know that cinema is highly perishable. Most of them it's very inflammable. The data get lost whenever there is a change in medium. When the raw stock or a B-roll is changed to digital medium, it's very important that we change it to the new medium. And then also the papers which are associated, the paper, the printing, and they are like very perishable stuff. And so it's very important that we preserve them, we collect them. The most of the information, because as we know, cinema is something which is like very close to people. Everybody likes it. It has entertained people for years. So fan groups are very important because fan groups actually have lot of information. So we normally focus on fan groups. Then collectors are important, and of course the researchers. And we need people who can listen, who can entertain, who can do archiving work, and preserve this heritage which we have. And Cinemaazi is doing that. It's a private collection. So, of course, the private collection is all driven by passion. So we normally are passionate people who are doing this everything with our own money. So this is not a very sustainable model, but yes, we're going to sustain it till we can do. So I hope this, the whole presentation gave a perspective about the topic which we have. And over to Mr. Rao.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Cinema refuses to seize its impact on human mind, especially the Indian mind. The fact that we may not be the inventors of this magic of this medium, the power of the visual media, but we have brought in many innovations to make this cinema a very, very interesting one compared to our fraternity beyond the borders. I think nobody has ever approached Indian cinema with the huge range of diversity that India did. Basically, given the fact that we are a diverse nation, the Indian cinema has found its great souls, great sons and daughters in terms of artists, technicians, writers and songsters. I think several individuals who had loads of talent were found by Indian cinema in all parts of the country. And it is a wonder even now how this has caught up in a country with so many contradictions, with so many problems at the same time parallelly going on. But one phrase that fits Indian cinema and India truly well is getting caught up in the imagination of it. I think that's a wonderful presentation that you have made, talking about the history and evolution of Indian cinema, talking about the lesser knowns, talking about the unsung heroes, and also talking about the loads of research that is required in order to document this cultural heritage that India has ever created. Without passion, without so much of passion, I am sure nobody would embark on this kind of a journey. You have done that. Thank you so much. And your presentation was extremely interesting. We were enjoying the songs and the mini clips that you presented. And I want to thank all the members who are staying glued to the screens. It's only because of your presentation and the bits that you have provided. It is a huge canvas. It takes a lot of time, but you've managed to focus on unearthing some of the things that most of us never knew. Thank you so much. I will now request all the members in the audience who have joined to stay, continue to wait for the Q&A session that's going to begin now. We'll have two clusters of questions and answer sessions. The first cluster will be taken up by Professor Prasad, and I'll come back for the second one. In the second cluster, you can raise your hands and we will open the mic for you to speak directly to Asha ji. And of course, we have a huge list of questions. We'll try and prioritize and take the most important ones, which seem to have not been answered in the opening talk given by Asha ji. With this, I once again thank Asha ji, and I'll thank all of you around the screen. I request Professor Prasad to come in. Thank you, Professor Prasad. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. And ma'am, this is what I would call it's an unbelievable scope of work that you have taken up. And when you move from one to the other, I'm still yet grasping for what you've just completed. The span of work is extremely huge. And if you add literary festival and other things, well, it is really unbelievable. At the same time, I can see a lot here in terms of imagination, in terms of creativity, and in terms of innovation. And these are common factors to what people do day in and day out, even apart from movies. So I'll begin here with my first question, and this is personal. There are many initiatives that you run currently. And how do you make choices? How have you made your choices in your career journey?
Okay, so this question is something which I've never thought that I'll be answering, because when you are a mother, you are always multitasking. So I think being a mother and a woman, I think multitasking just comes to naturally to you. But I would rather say that we both, me and my husband, both of us are actually jointly working in it. Yes, because he is a lawyer, so he needs to participate more on the earning part of it, and I'm there for the spending part of it. So that's how the whole scenario is. But yes, I always tell that you should work, or if I tell it in Hindi, I think that it will have the punch that काम वो करो जो किसी को समझ ही ना आए. So that's how I feel. Because so that's how I work.
Excellent, ma'am. I think you've left the question unanswered, and yet it is answered in some ways. You've left it open, and that is also very similar to the movies that you were mentioning about.
No, but I frankly speaking, I thought that I've answered the question though, but still, see, these are the works which I've been doing it for years, and because as a trained lawyers, you do a lot of things together. So I think maybe I use my time more effectively.
I think collecting of evidence, putting things together, making something meaningful out of it, and you applied it to a completely new kind of a line. And I think that's where it's going places also. From what you're saying, this is what I'm able to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's actually very sketchy. If I talk about the only cinema part, it's very sketchy. And to join the dots is very important to have a very a larger picture of the whole events which has happened in it. So that's what that helps, because you need to have a telescopic view, but at the same time you need to have a microscopic view of the matter. So that's how we actually try to figure it out. So I think that's how we've been managing it.
Yes, ma'am. I think, there are lots of points here. I think one of them is that since you've taken up unbelievably huge work, very diverse work, I think you've defined that connecting the dots is one of the first things that you need to do, and you think you're going about doing that. And that does make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of things will come around it as you go forward. Going ahead, ma'am, the film thing is a very unique initiative. I mean, you have taken this from so many other initiatives that you could have done, even as a lawyer, other things, there are many things which could have been done, but you've taken something very unique. How did you hit upon this? I mean, how did you get this? How did you land up in this? What is the motivation to do it? Because all this needs a lot of motivation to continue doing. It's a huge task. And you did mention that money is not the motivator and it comes from some other direction. Now, what drives you? What is the purpose?
We've been collecting this cinema memorabilia and things which are related to Indian cinema for many years. So Sumant and I both are film enthusiasts, and we've been watching. Interestingly, as you've seen, that I grew up in a small state of Northeast. And frankly speaking, in the Northeast, we hardly had cinema, Hindi cinema or any other cinema, because they used to show Manipuri cinema and Hindi cinema was banned at that point of time. So being from the army, we used to have an open air theaters, and we used to go as a child and watch it. And that's the time when it all, so that was the time when it all, the interest got picked up. And slowly, Sumant is a collector, so he hoards the stuff. I don't. So I give meaning to it. So that's how it is. So I think it's a teamwork. So when we were building our hotel, the museum hotel in the hills, we realized that a lot of cinema stuff are coming out, and we don't not only collect the cinema, actually we also collect typewriters, we also collect tape recorders, we also collect printing machines, so we collect a lot of other things. So when we saw it just being thrown out, and most of the kabadiwalas used to have them, so we thought that it's a very sad situation, because in the process of globalization, somewhere we have we've stopped thinking about all these things. new things came into pictures. Everybody's lives changed so rapidly that just imagine a small incident wherein a son is doing good job, he's getting a good salary. The first thing he goes and he tells his parents is, can we take out your old stuff and change it into a new nice house? And they take out everything. And everything goes to a kabadiwala. And then finally, it will get perished because it's such a perishable stuff. And that in this manner, a lot of history is getting eroded. And we, because we thought that this is one thing which if we can collect it and we can preserve them. So that was one initiative. We thought that we are not interested in spending our money in any other forms. So that was one passion which found, and we thought that it's better to invest it there, because it is also a way of giving back to the society, because ultimately the history is a very important aspect which everybody should watch. We should actually keep a track of it. So I think that's the reason why we started collecting it, and then we started archiving it, because whenever there is a change in the medium, whenever the medium changes, a lot of data gets washed away. Whenever if we see the raw films, and let's take a digital medium has come into now. The digital medium is the new medium in any case. But when the print, there's a lot of resource in the print medium. Now, if we don't digitalize the print stuff into the digital medium, it's going to finish in a few years. So that was one initiative which we thought that we should take. And we all know that archiving is not in Indian culture. We don't archive much. So we don't even keep records of our kids' name and family date of birth. Sometimes they say that, oh, but uska janam hua tha, Holi mein hua tha. That's how we remember children's birth as well. So that is the reason I think we thought that we took up this cause and wanted to preserve the history and the heritage which we have, and cinema is one of it.
Excellent, ma'am. I think one of the fundamental points that I can get from what you're saying is that the past has meaning. The past has meaning, and unless you do something about it, this meaning does not get transmitted. This meaning is not even there within the scope of understanding of the future, which is even more dangerous. And I think you have chosen. Yeah.
We need to contextualize anything. If we are moving towards the future, you need to have a context to that future. And the context can only be given by the history which we have.
Absolutely, ma'am. And I think, the legal background also helps here. But it's also important in that field of science. And I can see that you've chosen a field, cinema, which is highly enterprising. You've given a number of instances of how that has happened over the last 120 odd years. I think the other thing which I found interesting is that you've got the collector and the narrator coming together. And, technology, which is playing a part in seeing that this makes sense in today's context. I'll go to an associated question now, ma'am. And this is, about today, what are the lessons that we can learn from whatever you have done? I mean, if you look at it with respect to leading and managing oneself, or managing organizations, or managing societal initiatives, there must be a lot of lessons which are there in what you have seen. I mean, it's come out in the way you've said, but if you want to articulate some of them, what are the lessons out there for the general public who are in so many different professions and see cinema essentially for entertainment? So from your work, quite a lot of work which has been done, what would you like to share as your learnings?
First thing is that we should be very proud of our heritage, and we should always believe in giving back to the society. And it shouldn't, we shouldn't be always have a personal motivation, and it should be something which is like a personal motive, So when we have a motive which is actually for the betterment of people at large, I think the whole the cosmos helps you in doing the work which you do. So if I say, let's say if we think about only the cinema as such, and then if somebody is interested in preserving cinema, then they should always try to make it available to public at large. And the knowledge, there should be always a sharing of knowledge, because that helps other. And thirdly, I would say that it should be translated to the newest medium, whichever is there at that point of time, so that the young people, the youngsters who want to learn about all these things is easily accessible to them, and they can actually get the informations and correct information from their, because everybody nowadays is like very much hooked to their screens. So the digital medium is the only answer which we get right now. Maybe in few years we might change this medium, it might get changed to some other medium, but I think that's something which I would really believe that people should work for public at large rather than having personal motives.
Excellent, ma'am. You've covered a number of points. I think being proud of heritage connects with brand identity of people, identity of products, and there is always a sense of heritage there. If you bring that in, it becomes far more powerful. You've also brought about giving back to society and converting personal motive into giving back to society, which then becomes dharma, which is far larger and which is far more productive. And you're talking about sharing knowledge and converting it into the latest medium. So here we're talking about technology as a facilitator for knowledge and wisdom. They are all excellent points, ma'am. I'll come to one last question. There are many more, but I'll stop here because of paucity of time. And this question is basically, I did notice that one of your objectives is to create academic programs for students. Can you highlight how such programs can be offered to students who are, in our context, say, pursuing professional programs? It could be in law, it could be in technology, it could be in management.
You mean to say in Cinemaazi?
Yes, ma'am. You did mention that in the foundation, one of the objectives is offering of academic programs.
Academic programs, yeah. So we have already, last time we had, we normally call for papers, and the researchers, the PhD students are working with us. So they do their research using our archival material, and we help them in making their research more elaborate and more concrete. And because most of these cinema institutes are actually, they teach through, because they have the curriculum which are based on Hindi, not in Indian cinema context, because they are mostly the research are done in foreign universities, and foreign university students, they get a lot of grants to do these researches. So if somebody who is very keen in doing the research work with us, or they wanted to use our library, which we have, the old magazines, old newspapers, so we allow them to use it. And the film books which are coming on personalities, they also use our Cinemaazi archival material. We also have stills. These stills are used by them. And maybe in future, we might start some type of a course, but our hands are full right now. So we haven't started that part yet. But yes, we do have small retreats, which we keep doing. We provide spaces for public talks. So that's one thing which we are very interested, and we keep encouraging that type of initiatives.
Another ocean, ma'am. I can see that right here. And considering what you're doing, you talked about, perhaps it came as one movie in the last millennial, but about, Sehagad, you did mention. You also mentioned about mythology, the lot of work that you're doing on mythology. There are lots in, for instance, just in management, which can be learned from what has happened in the past, because human behavior has not changed. The same fundamentals apply then or today, as they say very much about the Mahabharata. So there's a scope of a lot of such research happening from this country, because there are a lot of people in this country who are themselves interested in seeing how to pick this up and then put it across as research work, which can then get published. I can see that there is tremendous scope for that. And what you've mentioned in terms of retreats or public lectures are initial enablers, but there's tremendous scope in this, ma'am. With that, I'll conclude this cluster. And thank you very much, ma'am. I hand it back to Professor Rao.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's so interesting. I'm only worried that the time that we have on our hand is just not sufficient to do justice to this kind of subject. But let me steer through irrespective of those constraints. While the canvas is large, the magnitude of the work that you're attempting is pretty huge and unbelievable. What is the current structure in your organization which enables you to actually capture it? What is your mantra? What is your secret sauce that helps you do all these things? It is not easy to do, therefore you must have had a structure within you. That is one. The other thing is, what is the future structure which actually enables a large number of people participate in this work of collecting data, researching, archiving, of course, synthesizing and connecting the dots and making sense of it is another story. But how do you give it back to the community in terms of participation of archiving it? How does your organization go from one to many? How does your organization go from Cinemaazi to India?
Let me answer the second question before I answer the first one. We have actually gone to many collectors and people who were associated with film industries and their children and their family members who wanted to donate their archival or whatever the film material they have with them. And that is what is recorded under the Cinemaazi Memory Project. So we normally don't take their the physical asset as such. We normally take the digital aspect of it. We digitalize it and then use it for and keep it in our studio. And then we just ask people to freely access it from there. And because it's actually a very humongous job to digitalize. We went to Calcutta. We have digitalized a lot of content, but then people who are researchers and who wanted to research on these aspects, they can always connect with us and then we can help them in getting all these information so that it in some way help their research and also their work. If I remember your first question well, that means when you asked me that how I manage my time, is it that's what something?
Yeah, exactly. The current load that is on your hands is too much in terms of collecting a lot of material and making sense of it. So the current structure of your organization should allow that as well, right?
Yeah. I have a team who takes care of all these things, and I just give them the how they have to do, and there is a structure to it. So I think it's been done okay. I have never thought about it. How do we do it or something? It's like it's been very smoothly. We do it with the team. So I head them. I have a team of 6-7 people. They work for us. They do the research. They do one team does the scanning. They digitalize it. One does the uploading. So that's how we've been doing it for years. So it's been like 4 years maximum, because 1.5 years had gone in COVID in any case.
Great. There's a huge scope as much as the work spawns at, but there is also a huge scope for scaling up your organization in terms of the number of people who can work at various levels and then filter the data that you can get in and of course then preserve it according to your norms. Democratizing the passion for documenting heritage is something that you can look at, but we will discuss that on some other day. We have just a minute. We do have people who are working in South and also in the Bengali industry, the Punjabi industries, because the language is when we talk about Indian cinema, the linguistic diversity which we have, we need people who know the language also. So we have people who contribute. We also commission
lot of articles. So they also write for us. So if you go to the website, you will see the amount of work which we have done in the other cinema and other aspect of Indian cinema also. So I think that part is done. But yes, more the merrier. That's always a good.
Great, amazing. We are joined by several people, as I was mentioning earlier. There is an actor and a research scholar who has joined, Bindu. I'm sure she has a few questions to ask you. But before that, I want to ask one question and then open the mic for Mr. Prabhakar Rao, who has already raised his hand. This question is, when so much of work is happening, it is actually satisfying you very well. It is actually satisfying the goals of your organization extremely well. And there is that motive of giving back to the society for the larger good. So that is fantastic. But as an organization, as the head of the organization, how do you measure the impact of your work? At the end of the day, what are the things that you sit down and analyze and review your own work and saying that you're doing very well or you're not doing very well? What is that mechanism for you to assess the impact of your own work?
So this is a very work in progress type of work which is there, and it's a humongous work. There are many aspects wherein we need to start. We haven't started a lot of cinema, a lot of languages which we want to start, but because of, as I said, that the language, there is always though we are diverse, but then the language becomes, and it's the understanding the language is a big issue, and because these are made in regional languages, so you to know the language is very important. So as far as the Hindi cinema and Punjabi cinema, Konkani also, the Konkani we have completed the whole, because it's a very small industry. So the Konkani cinema we have completed. But as far as the Hindi cinema is considered and other cinema, Tamil, I think we have a lot of scope to finish. But because we are not in a hurry, so it's something which will stay with us forever. So I don't think there is any end goal for us or something like that. But this is something which we wanted to just keep with us and keep working on it.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. More power to you in your journey to actually bring back what has been our own, in the sense that, as we talked about some time back, the items that we grow with create some memory for us. Therefore, there is a value for those items which were ours some time back. And a little bit of passion like yours, of course, it's a large amount of passion. That kind of passion will help us preserve and bring it back, and it connects to our future. That is what I have experienced. I would like to pass on to the future generation with the same kind of memories, with a similar kind of values. It's basically a knowledge transfer mechanism that's happening on the medium of memories. So fantastic. So that's a great canvas you're on. There cannot be a happier person than you if one hits upon a career like this. So that's why we were trying to understand more about it. How do you immortalize it? How do you make it permanent? How do you make it stronger at scale? So I'll request Mr. Prabhakar Rao to raise his question. Over to you, Mr. Prabhakar.
Good evening, Asha ji.
Good evening.
And good evening to our professors also. Greetings, sir, both of you. And ma'am, it's a great kind of a journey down the memory. Never realized that movie can be so much. We just spend 2.5 hours or 3 hours and just come out and then forget it, get on to our work. But the topic which is taken up today is that beyond the cast, I think you discussed about 10 valid points, and never realized that movie itna hota hai ki it's like, it's not an eye opener, something beyond that, beyond words. I'm not anything in cinema, but still, yeah, I love music. 2 points which you discussed, I just want to, maybe it could be an uneducated question, but you spoke about editing, in which you said fade in and fade out. Maybe you can just throw some light on that, ma'am, just to get a better prospect on that.
Yeah. So normally when we make cinema, there is always techniques. Even in today's time, when we make a lot of, let's see, we make videos or something, there has to be a connection between the two shots. So whenever there is a connection, so there is a lot of transitions are put in that type of connections. So one of the transition is fade in and fade out type of a transitions, which he used to do. So I'm not an editor as such, but I think that's the best answer I can give it to you.
Yeah, I think you put in one short word when the connection is, I think, the word. Yeah. And the next quick question before I take too much time. Presently, we are in the changing medium of digital medium and all that. How do you think the OTT platform has changed Indian cinema and the viewership view also, ma'am, about the whole part? Because we're almost into OTT for the last 2 years, and I think we're fully bugged into it. So what's your take on that?
See, OTT or a hall or a movie theater film is very personal, what I feel. This is something which a person would like to watch content in a cinema or in an OTT. But if we see in these period, and especially after the COVID time, I've realized that there is a distinct categorization which has been done, what a person wants to watch in an OTT platform and what a viewer wants in a theater. I think that categorization has already been done, and our filmmakers have already understood that aspect of it. So I think both will keep going on, and it will continue, because there are something which a person would like to watch in a theater, like Bahubali. I don't think anybody would like to watch Bahubali in a OTT platform than watching it in a theater. So I think the theater will have its own charm.
Great, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. And hope to see you on Air India flight sometime. I'm a pilot with Air India from Hyderabad. Hope to see you on Air India sometime. Thank you, Raghav.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That was Captain flying Air India from Hyderabad. So, ma'am, it is so interesting that the takeaway is the hybrid format of consuming cinema continues now, or it is evolving now, similar to what we often hear about education becoming hybrid in its consumption, work becoming hybrid in its delivery. What is to be taught in the classroom and what can be consumed online probably is clearly defined, depending on the consumer, depending on the context of the person or the learner. And therefore, the evolution is more or less becoming clear now. Only thing is we need to step in to make it very interesting within that segment, within that consumption pattern, and then win by clearly segregating and categorizing our content. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll now invite Bindu to ask her question. Bindu is a great actor, as I mentioned. Over to you, Bindu.
Okay. Thanks for the interest, Sudhakar, sir. Okay, ma'am, I'm not going to praise you for your big, gigantic project that you have taken up, because everyone has said what I have to say. So ditto. So I'm not going to take anyone's time by doing that right now. So it's ditto, 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 ditto. So, and also most of the question that I wanted to ask, pretty much everyone is asking, but I would just extend the same thing. Like when we were talking about the hybrid format and OTT platforms, what I wanted to ask was, what would you define Indian cinema as in first place, right? Like, for example, now the definition is, the scope of the definition is much larger. Like there's cinema on OTT platforms, there is cinema in theaters. So for you, when you say cinema, does this only restrict to theater cinema, or cinema that comes in the digital format also? Like when you talk about history, so these are like kind of layers of questions. So that is one. And the second is, when you talk about history, where I mean, are you adding like for the past 10 years also, or the past 5 years, or just the last 30 years? Or is it a progress, or till where have you progressed? And are you going to go to the history till the last 5 years? So it's kind of like, I know it is one step at a time for you. I totally get that point, but I'm just trying to understand what did you have in your mind? Like what were your definitions in this era where everything is changing digitally and technologically, and the definitions are gray everywhere?
So as far as cinema is concerned, I think it's defined in the Cinematographers Act. So they have already defined it, that the cinema is like whichever is the cinema, they have already defined in the Cinematographers Act. But we right now, because it's a gigantic work. It's a big industry wherein thousands and millions of people have worked. So for our own convenience, we have actually thought that we'll concentrate till 1970. So that was the time period which we have marked for ourselves for our own convenience. Otherwise, it will become very big. And also there is one more reason for it, because the fan group and the people who have the information about these films are old enough now. So we want to, before they actually age and their memories get lost, we want to record their information, whatever they have. So that is so that the focus remains in for that period. So that is one of the main reasons why we have actually named it as such, Cinemaazi. Maazi means past, until 1970. So that is the time period we have given to ourselves. So that's how it is. But what can be called cinema, what cannot be called cinema, or OTT can be called as a cinema, I think that's a very anything like even the documentary can be called a cinema or something. So it's actually a very big question, and it's a very big platform. Right now, we are only concentrating till 1970 and the films which has been made during that time period.
Okay, one last question, Sudhakar sir, don't mind, very quick, okay? So, ma'am, another question I wanted to ask was, when Sudhakar sir was talking about democratization, you spoke about other languages and from where you're getting the information and everything. So when you were talking about so many firsts in Indian cinema and the history and everything, I just remembered that coming from a South Indian and Telugu background and had been crazy fan of Telugu cinema and followed the history of Telugu cinema, there were a lot of firsts in Telugu cinema and Tamil cinema also, like a lot of firsts in their cinematography on 70 mm, on other kind of things that have happened in the South Indian industry also. And as you said, it is a beginning. I understand. I would love you to go forward and explore that and add it to the history, and hope it goes down the history for other languages, and where there are a lot of other firsts in the South Indian cinema too. So the question here is, so when you're trying to contact someone, what about all these production houses at that point of time before 1970s? Do you even have access to them? Are they even ready to give you their content? And because what I have coming from the film industry and being here in the South in the film industry, I've understood that it's a very closed industry. So how much access do you get to all this? How do you do you think it was easy to get access when you were doing it for the Hindi cinema? Do you think South would be much more difficult to get access to? What about the intellectual property, the rights? Are they ready to give you the stuff even for academic purposes? So that's kind of like an open-ended question that I wanted to ask. What are your struggles on that?
No, it's actually, you can rightly said that it is actually a very closed industry, and at the same time, nobody would like to talk about or want to part away with the information which they have without a cost. So that's the reality of the the whole scenario. That's the real truth of the matter. Now, we normally try, because we have our own resource people who bring to us. So we collect from them. We have never gone to any film industry people or to film industries. But yes, we do have our patrons, and we have our board members who are associated from film industries, like even from Assam, from South. We have a lot of people who are helping us in collating the information. But if we talk about industry as such, like film industry as such, I think they are closed in that manner. Yeah, but but few of them are very open. Like I made research on in presentation itself. If you see Hira Lal Thakur, his son actually he gave us a lot of information. I've made in this manner. We have made few more stories. Their family members gave us a lot of information because normally their work is something which we don't because we have our own system from where we can find out the number of cinema they have work of films they have made, and in where they have in which time they have started making cinema and all these things that we have. But the only difficulty where we get into is their personal details. From where did they came, at what time they came, from which let's say how they entered the cinema world. So these are information which can only be provided by a family member or from the information which is available in the magazines. Now, if we talk about all the lesser known people, the magazines never focused on them actually. Even a lot of art directors and lot of poster artists, I don't think we even recognize their face also. So, and especially, can you imagine all these things doing by young team who is like in their 20s? For them to recognize becomes more difficult. And it's such a huge time period that one person was had like there are 4 or 5 people by the same name. So they have worked on different time frames, but then for a youngster to understand and to recognize them is a huge task. So these are the things which we keep struggling. We have our own struggles. But we're trying to do our best in any case. I think that's how I can answer the question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, and good luck. And
thank you.
Keep going with your passion. We are all excited to see and be part of it.
Thank you, Bindu. You may probably contact her as part of your research work and see if some value, some additional items can be procured. So. Ma'am, what you mentioned is that the content comes at a cost from the people who hold it, and the researcher, that is you, Cinemaazi, will pay a price to actually get that. But more importantly, the future generations or the people who are ahead of us will be paying a premium actually to have a look at that and feel nostalgic about it. So that's the summary that I get from your huge list of struggles that you mentioned. It's worth it. And it's a pity that not many people are doing this, and you have chartered a unique path for yourself to create this wonderful list of memories for all of us for the years to come. Thank you so much. I'll now ask one question before I request Mr. Arun Kaul to raise his question. And one simple thing is, you have mentioned about Goan artists in your presentation as well, including your talk. What makes them distinct vis-a-vis the history of Indian cinema? What makes Goan artists very distinct?
So if I have to answer in one sentence, I would say that the melody which we see in our music, that melody was given by Goan artists. Wow. So that melody is something which I think, because they were working in churches and they had the background of church music, and all the Western instruments were played by them. So that was something which the music industry, if we think about music industry, I think that is one of the greatest gift or the greatest contribution which they have done to Hindi film industry or to Indian film industry in that sense.
Great. So here is a case where influence of Western culture in terms of art, in terms of music, has had a positive impact on enriching our own music and our own present collection of movies. As you mentioned, melody has been added distinctly by these Goan artists, thanks to the background that they've been playing in the churches and having access to the Western instruments.
There have been it's a very very interesting aspect of life that whenever there is a churning, then only the butter comes out. So that's how it is. So you need the churning of good and bad, and in the same manner, the churning of old and new, the churning of Indian and Western, So whatever the resultant which comes out of this churning is what makes that culture of that country. Western musicians were all over the world, but then the melody which we get in our songs is very unique to us.
Yes.
And that is something which is ours. We cannot say that this is something which they contributed. They were all Indians who contributed to this film industry, and we all actually enjoy it. The whole what do you call it? So I think that's how it is.
Great, great. India is a melting pot of cultures, and this leads to churn, and churn produces best of the outputs. One of the best byproducts of the churn that we are currently talking about is the melodious music that we have produced in India and contributed to the Indian cinema. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll request Arunji to raise this question. Over to you.
Good evening, ma'am. I had no intention of asking a question today, but your talk has been so wonderful that a question popped into my mind. And so I said that I might as well ask you this question. I am now, talking about my childhood. I'm talking about late 1950s and early 1960s. When, my father used to take me for a regular film show organized by the Children's Film Society in Sapru House on Barakamba Road in New Delhi. And what was surprising was that I was able to go week after week after week and see films at that stage in my life. So I was just wondering that there must be a large body of, a lot of films on, children's films. And maybe I'm not aware of children's films in other languages of the South or Northeast or other parts of the country. So in your museum, do you have a section, or have you thought of a section devoted only to movies or, for children, etc.?
So yes, there were many films which were made, and children's film was a very important aspect of the whole industry. And at one point of a time, Nehru took the initiative, and he wanted that films should be made for children as well. And this in the month of November, we are actually starting, because we normally give 1 month to one subject. So this month we have already given to the rains of India. Okay. So November will be the month wherein we will be showcasing all our archival material which we have on children films. So I think you can see what type of a work we have done in cinema, in children's cinema, and also the archival material. I think you'll be able to connect to many of the stories which you might have recalled your childhood, and then see that there are films which is very interesting films were made for children at one point of a time. And but nowadays that there is a huge confusion between the adult and the children, I think that whole system has gone away somewhere. But yes, there were films which were made for children, especially for children at one point of a time, and you'll be able to see it in the month of November. I think we are collating the whole thing now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. That's a very good answer. There are children at the age of 60 who would like to watch certain type of movies, and there are grown-ups well under 10 who would like to probably learn more about what is this all about. But yes, thank you so much. Your season's flavor, as you highlighted, is very interesting. Some rainy movies or rainy songs are very, very interesting for people to watch, but especially focused, archived accordingly, and highlighted is a good structure to actually showcase it to the people and get them glued and get them more curious about what's happening under Cinemaazi. Thank you so much, ma'am. I have one question to ask you, and this probably could be my last question before anybody raises their hand. I'll just check the question box. How to reach your archives? You can go to the website and reach the archives. Probably you can learn more about it in the search. I did that. Cinemaazi. Is it cinemaazi.com, ma'am?
Yes, it's cinemaazi.com.
Cinemaazi.com.
And then there is a YouTube channel as well, so you can watch both. By Cinemaazi TV, the name of the channel.
Yeah, yeah. So my question, ma'am, is in this, what are the specific leadership skills required in this area? In this area, you may call it, this area is now being defined as somebody archiving Indian cinema, somebody documenting Indian cinema. You are a pioneer in a way, although it was started 4 years back. There has been no consistent case of somebody documenting it and so passionately taking it forward. You are a pioneer in this. What kind of leadership skills are required for others to get into this kind of work? Are there any one or two issues that you can help us, our viewers, to know about?
Okay. I don't know whether you can call it to be a leader or something. I never see it like that. But yes, it should be very close to your heart. Any work, whatever you do in any field, what I feel is that it has to be very close to your heart. You should totally believe in it. And with your full passion, you should be working towards it. Then that's the best way to work for any subject in general also. And that's one thing. As far as the archiving is concerned, I think archiving is a very boring job. It's not very glamorous. So it's like you have to be always with the book inside, looking for stuff, connecting your dots. So that's something which requires a lot of passion, because unless you love it doing and you love that thing, I don't think it can result to any good work. So that's something which is important. I normally don't consider leadership qualities much on me, so it's okay. I don't think I have that much. But yes, with passion, with a lot of your heart to it, and a hidden agenda or a cause to help others. So that is something which I want, and just to preserve your history, preserve the content which we have. And if we don't do it, I don't think, and especially when I am at that point in my life where I can do it. If I don't do it, then I don't think that will be a good service. So that's the only reason why we keep doing it.
Amazing, ma'am. Only a leader can speak like that. Forget the labels, forget the categorization, but we can easily understand how unassumingly you have grounded your work and focused so much on the speed and the magnitude of its output. That itself speaks volumes about what you bring to the table and how you're driven by this huge passion. On this note, I would like to request you to give me 1 minute so that I can sum it up for the benefit of those who joined late. And this is an amazing session, very different compared to all our 114 sessions so far. And as a matter of fact, we have just completed 115 minutes of discussion on this 115th leadership conversation. You have actually helped or helping the future connect to its past through the present work that you are taking up. You're chronicling the history and capturing the evolution of cinema, recognizing the unsung heroes and heroines, technicians. You're helping us understand how the cinema has found its producers, how it has found its money, how it has found its pleasure, how it has found its so many followers and patronage that goes on generations after generations. You have explained the unsung heroes through their contributions among writers, among artists, among cinematographers, so on and so forth. And those are the issues that we need to focus on. The wider known are known anyway, but the lesser known has to be focused. That's a great takeaway for us. And this inspiration, I'm sure, will capture the attention of youngsters, researchers, academics to actually get involved in this work, not just for those who are specializing in film technology or film as a theme, But I think in general, cinema has invaded into our lives. It has impacted our societies. It has impacted our works. It is going to impact the way we are thinking and responding to societal issues as well. And therefore, everyone has a stake in Indian cinema. And this cinema needs greater participation, I'm sure. Therefore, not just those people who are specialized in cinema, but general people also will have to participate in creating, preserving, archiving, and helping that our past continues to move with us. And we can clearly see the changing face of Indian cinema from what it was and what it is and what it is going to be with the advent of technology, with the advent of influence from Western world, with the advent of the changing patterns of consumption itself. And therefore, this is bound to happen. But if we can keep it in front of us and be very conscious of how the change is happening, that is life well lived, that is products well consumed, that is memories valued and then bequeathed to the generations that come next to us. Thank you so much. With folded hands, we respect you and we value your contribution, your time, energy, passion, and involvement in creating what is unimaginably so big. On behalf of ICFAI and on behalf of everyone here, we would like to thank you so much, and we'll connect with you. We will write a summary of this session. Kindly share the presentation by email to me or by WhatsApp. We will write a text summary. We will do an edited recording of this. We'll put it on our archives. We also do some archives. We have 115 leadership conversations archived. It is for public, and knowledge transfer is our mainstay. That is our job, and we owe it to everyone who attended, and we owe more to those people who could not. So thank you so much, Brian, once again, on behalf of everyone. We'll stay connected with you. We'll write to you. Kindly email the presentation. To the members who have joined, thank you so much for your involvement. You stayed glued for such a long time, and I cannot thank you enough for your commitment to come back to us week after week and keep raising such very interesting questions to make the discussion all the more interesting for us to go back and listen to it. There are many people who go back to the website and look at that. So till we meet again next Friday at 6:30 p.m., we are going to talk about Ikigai, the leadership way, the way leadership is taught by Ikigai. We are going to actually talk about that with yet another leader coming from Japan. She's Nupur Tiwari, and we would love to have a good conversation with her when you're back on 11th of August at 6:30 p.m. Till then, keep browsing cinemaazi.com, keep looking into cinema, and keep living the cinema the way you have been doing. Thank you all, and good night.